Hey Amazoners, today we're going to be doing a review on how to install a sliding barn door hardware kit. One of the first things you'll notice on the kit is it is all very high quality, it's all very nice, but obviously it doesn't come with a door. So I'm actually going to also build a door. I'm going to put that section of the video at the end. I'm going to kind of do it in reverse order. I'm going to build the door, get video of it. Then I'm going to install it and get video of that. And in this video, I'm just going to show that installation. And then if you want to see how to actually build a very quick and simple barn door, stay tuned at the very end and you'll see how to build one that will work based on the sizing requirements of this barn door kit for your application. So here we go. Alright folks, so this is going to be the installation location for me. So you can move the board out of the way. I could have done that before I started the video, but oh well, that's the reality. So the instructions on this are, well, they're kind of simple, and I think they're fairly well explained. I will highly recommend that number one, two things you need to focus on. Right here, let's see if you can see this on camera. It says, fits door panel width 48 inches. I assume that means up to 48. Weight capacity 170 pounds. That's important. Here's the key one for when you're building your door. You want to make sure that the thickness is no less than 1 3/8 inch and no more than 1 3/4 inch. So now if you do the math on that, that's only giving you about 3/8 of an inch play, right? Now I just did a quick video showing you how to build your door. And I used 3/4 inch thick tongue and groove paneling, which would put me at about 1.5 inches. Now the reality with 3/4 inch tongue and groove paneling or tongue and groove boards is that it's actually 23/32, which is just a little bit under 3/4. It's 1/16 or what is it? No, 1/32 under 3/4. Because 24/32 would be actual 3/4. So just make sure that you calculate that, because the portion of the door that matters for the 1 3/8 to 1 3/4 inch size requirement is the top, where the bars are going to mount to, okay? So just make sure you take that into consideration when you're building your door. We're going to start off with step number one, which is basically to mark the hole mounting clamp positions and drill the holes. So what I'm basically going to do, it says you want to have the door height plus an extra 1.7 inches. You also want to take that into account for how big you make your door, okay? So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and grab the bar. I'm going to try, if I can, to clamp it up there, and I'm going to use a level to help me get that bar perfectly level before I start marking where I'm going to drill my holes. Alright folks, let's talk about some of this that you need to know. So number one, depending on the door you've selected, how you've built it, and how tall you've made it, you may have trouble getting your clamps, the jaw length, to be able to actually get up there and grab the bar. I had some struggles, so I just used some scrap wood. No big deal. Alright, so number one that you need to really focus on in the first diagram, let me show you here. Right here, you'll notice it says the hole, the center of the hole that is closest to the door needs to be 1.2 inches away from the door. Okay? Yes, that does matter. And the door height plus 1.7 inches needs to be the center of the hole on the bar. So that can be a little bit tricky. Now, mind you, it's not talking about the door opening, it's talking about the height of your door. My door is 7'1¼ inches, right? So for me to add plus 1.7 inches, I'm a little bit over 72 up on that line. So when I measure up to there, I should be plus 1.7 inches. Now, once you get your hole here about 1.2 inches from your doorway, okay, you're going, and you tighten down your clamps a little bit. You should have also marked, you probably can't see it, but there's a mark here and there's a mark there to help you find where roughly the bar needs to be. At that point, you're going to want to take a level, like so, and you're going to want to make sure that your door frame is perfectly level. If you install this bar and it's not level, your door is constantly going to want to slide from one direction to the other. Obviously, that's not ideal. So, I think that should cover the majority of this step. Next, you'll see that I will have piloted these holes and mounted the bar. All right, just a quick update. I ran into a little bit of trouble with getting my measurements just right. It's very difficult with a bar this long to do that because really you're measuring to the center of the hole and then to get it level. It's very complicated. So you can tell right now it's totally not level. But what I did was I got one hole where it was supposed to be positioned, right? Perfect, exactly at the height that I want. Went ahead and piloted it and shot one of the bolts in, okay? Now, what that allows me to do is to use that as a pivot point to level this board. So now I'll be able to come in here and get my bubble dead center. And just a little bit off here. And once you have it dead center, now, because you've positioned it this way and this way, you now know the rest of these will be level and where they're supposed to be. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pilot the rest of my holes, and then I'm going to go ahead and start mounting the hardware. All right, folks, so at this point, you should have your bar up, okay? Now, here's the deal with putting the bar up. Don't be fooled by the package. They actually have the little base, the spacers, they have them flipped around intentionally for shipping in the package, but when you take them out, the wide, flat part of the base should be against the wall, not against the rail, okay? So just basically, when you take the bolt and the spacer out of the package, just flip it around, right? You put the wide piece against the wall, you put your bolt, it's a lag screw actually, your lag screw through the washer, right? You put the spacer in between the bar and the wall, and you put the lag bolt with the washer in this way. In through the spacer, into the wall, into the hole that you've piloted. Now, before you crank down on this thing and tighten it down to your wall, don't do that, right? Hopefully, when you piloted your holes, the instruction says to use a 7/32 inch size bit, and I'm sure that you did. However, you'll notice that the holes on this are quite a bit larger than 7/32. So if you were off a little bit, say you were a little bit high on this one, maybe a little bit high on this one, your bar might actually be out of level now if you were not center of the hole when you did it. So at this point, take a moment, put your level back up here and check for level. My level is almost 100% on at this point. It's a little bit off. But if I just lift up just a little bit on this side and pull down a little bit on this side, it will be absolutely perfect. So just double check before you tighten that down to your wall. And obviously, if you're using some type of an impact wrench, don't go crazy. Don't really crank down on it and possibly strip out your wall material, because that's going to make it next to impossible for this thing to work right. So, right there. Again, I said I'm going to lift up just a little bit. I'm going to lift right here. Yeah, this thing feels actually really solid, and I got to tell you, it looks great. Oh yeah. Now, you'll notice they made the holes 16" on center, which is ideal because you want to mount these things directly to your studs. Now, for those of you doing this in a drywall environment, it's really important that you do that. If you don't do that, this is not going to hold your wall. It's a little tricky depending on how your framers worked. My framers did a decent job in here, but there was some ups and downs. And ultimately, if you're off by a little bit in a drywall environment, you could probably try utilizing anchors to make up that difference. But hopefully you're able to get these things on stud. I can tell you right now, this one and this one for me are not on stud. This one might be, or might be very close because I can see where I've shot nails. And I can see this one's even a little bit further off. So I think these are off a little bit. But to follow the instructions, with that being 1.2 inches off the door frame, I just didn't really have an option. So for me, it wasn't a big deal because I have a header, a very strong header here, here, and obviously there. So these three are doing most of the work. This one is still very strong. I'm not worried about it. But it's something you want to take into account when you are measuring and marking your locations. All right, at this point, if you've installed your hardware and followed all the steps, you should have a sliding door. And hopefully yours slides as smoothly and easily as this one does. I am very happy with this kit. I think it looks beautiful. I mean, it's a great look. I've got a little bit of a rub, and I believe it's just that my door is a little bit out of, I think I might need to take a little 1/4 of an inch off the bottom here. I'm not worried about it. It actually is rolling quite smooth until it hits. And also, I've got a lot of dust from construction and whatnot down here. But just make sure that your door rolls smooth and that it's level and that it'll stop too. That's the other thing. This is where you can really check level. Look, if you leave it here, it should stay. If it starts rolling in another direction, you're out of level and you need to go ahead and make adjustments to your bar now, okay? If you find that you're dragging the floor, loosen these bolts and see if you can push your brackets down on the door. Lift your door into the brackets and tighten them back up. If you have maximized that area, you may need to consider widening your holes and lowering them so you can lift the door up even further. Or you could just take a circular saw and chop 1/8 of an inch off your barn door. It's a barn door. It's not supposed to be perfect. So I'm really happy with this one. I think it looks great. Actually, I tell you what, it was rolling so smooth, I accidentally let it fly right off the edge. I'm not going to do it this time. Because the next step that we have left to do is to actually install the stops to keep you from accidentally letting it roll off the end of the bar. And actually, I take that back. The next step, really, if you've been following along in your instructions here, let me see if I can get that to change the lighting a little bit. Not so much. Actually, your next steps after you've installed this is to put your anti-jumps. I don't know what anti-jumps are. I think it just keeps your door from being able to pop up off the rail. You know, I don't plan to be that rough with the door, so I don't even know if I'm going to install those things. If I do, there we go. Now you can see a little better. These guys right here. I don't know if I'm going to install them. I don't really see much of a use for them. I don't know. We'll see. But I am definitely, yeah, you're supposed to do it before you even hang on the rail, really. But I am definitely going to install the stops here, or the floor guider, as it's called. So we'll see how that works out. Thank you. All right, folks. So there's only 2 steps left. Number 1, or the second to last step, I should say, is to install the floor guide. Now, for me, I'm not going to be using the floor guide. The equipment that they included would be sufficient for anyone with a standard floor. Now, if you're doing this in a garage where you have a concrete floor, you're going to need special concrete anchors to be able to do that. And I'm not going to use those. I actually spent a few extra dollars and bought a slightly different add-on for this kit, which was available from a different seller, which had it was a roller system. So it actually has a little thing that comes out from the wall of the roller, and I'll do a review and a video on how to install that later. However, the second or the last step is to install these rubber stops. These are very thick, high quality rubber. I'm actually really happy with these. They're pretty simple. If you look, let me see if I can. If you look, you can see there's just a little guy right there. You just loosen these 2 nuts up, slip it over the bar with the long piece facing out like this. It goes over the bar. Okay. So I'm going to go over here to this one on this end, just like that. And basically, it just stops you from rolling off coming off the rails. It's not too bad. All right, so all in total here, I'd say my total install time was about, I don't know, maybe an hour or so. I think it could have went a lot quicker if I wasn't doing all this video work. Maybe about an hour to install it, probably less. Building the door took me about an hour, so in 2 hours' time, I've been able to build a door and install it. Now, that, of course, doesn't include the time for me to come back and stain this, and I'm going to add some hardware like a handle, you know, just to give it something to grab a hold of. But as far as this barn door kit goes, and by the way, you can see I've already installed the stopper here, and it works great. I mean, it literally just bounces the door. It keeps it from rolling off the rails. I'm really happy with this kit. I think it's beautiful. I think it adds something to my wood shop here. And overall, I'm really happy with it. And I think at the price point, you can't beat it. If you look at some of the big box stores, to get a barn door kit like this and a barn door can be upwards of $800, $900, or even $1,000. My total purchase for this, I think this kit was like 70 bucks, maybe, if that. And the lumber and the door, and I might have $90 in the door. So for about $160, $170, I've been able to build something that would have cost me much, much more to either A, purchase, let alone have somebody else install it. It's not that hard. You don't really need a lot of specialty tools. So that's it. I hope you found this review helpful, and good luck on building your barn door. Take care. All right, you know, I realized as I was making these videos, I hadn't taken the time yet to actually show you what's in the box. So when you first open the box, what you're going to see is some actually really nice looking hardware. I don't know what these are yet. Looks like, I don't know, the rollers and whatever. It's black, looks very nice. Obviously, you're going to have your bar, depending on what length kit you bought. Between the 6 foot, 8 foot, I think they even have a 13 foot. But at least that's what it says in the guide. I think on Amazon I only saw 6 foot and 8 foot. I purchased the 6.5 foot, the 6.6 foot, because that's really all I needed. And you're going to have a couple of boxes here. Oh, these are very nice. Look at that. Nice roller. Nice. Oh, that is nice. It's got a nice smooth action to it. It's got your clamp, or your mounting hardware already in it. I don't know what these are. I'm gonna. Oh, that looks like that's the stop for the floor and some additional hardware here. So this should be the other. Let's take a look. It's not easy opening boxes one-handed, folks. I'll tell you. The camera person's off for the day. Just kidding. I don't have a camera person. All right. Yeah, that's nice. Good smooth bearings on that. I am looking forward to installing this. So, all right, that is what comes in the box, in addition to the instruction manual that you'll see me referencing several times in this video. So there we go. Hey Amazoners, today we're going to be doing a review on how to install a sliding barn door hardware kit. One of the first things you'll notice on the kit is it is all very high quality, it's all very nice. But obviously it doesn't come with a door. So I'm actually going to also build a door. I'm going to put that section of the video at the end. I'm going to kind of do it in reverse order. I'm going to build the door, get video of it. Then I'm going to install it and get video of that. And in this video, I'm just going to show that installation. And then if you want to see how to actually build a very quick and simple barn door, stay tuned at the very end and you'll see how to build one that will work based on the sizing requirements of this barn door kit for your application. So here we go. Alright, so one of the first things I want to point out is I happen to look at a lot of pictures online of different barn doors. I picked a style that I like. It's pretty simple. But one of the things I noticed in the picture is that all the hardware was black, right? Which I like. It looked really good on a dark stained wood. The problem is if you go to buy actual pre-painted or pre-powder coated screws or bolts or whatever you're going to use, you'll find that it's extremely expensive. So one of the best things you can actually do is just buy the simple, much less expensive packs of screws and bolts and nuts and whatever, and just take a scrap piece of board and screw a whole bunch of them into the board, right, all in a line, and then just take spray paint and tap them with spray paint real quick, and that'll give you the same effect for much, much less cost. So again, real quick here, all we're going to do, you're just going to start it into the board, you know, just like that. That's it. And then, you know, preserve paint if you care about that. Just try to keep them pretty close together, like so. And after you're done, if you take the time to calculate how many screws you're actually going to need, just put them all on the board. And again, we're just going to hit them with some spray paint. That'll make them black, save you a few bucks on buying the more expensive powder coated or already painted black hardware. Alright, so I'm building the barn door, and one of the first things you're going to run into is a selection of materials that you want to use for your door. Now, ideally, I'd like to use some beautiful mahogany or oak or whatever, but that's very expensive. So your wood selection makes a big difference in how you end up having to construct it. For example, if you want wood like mahogany or oak or cherry or a lot of the nicer woods, number one, you're going to have to source it. You're going to have to find it. Now, you can find it at local lumber yards. The downside to local lumber yards is while the prices are reasonable, and by reasonable, I'm saying some of those may be $4 per board foot. And so if you were to get 1 inch thick stock and you have a 3 foot by 7 foot door, that's 21 foot. And then multiplying your the cost of your wood at, say, just $4 a board foot would be 21 times 4 would be $84. That's actually not that bad of a price. The downside is that when you get it from a lumber mill, the majority of lumber mills give you what's called rough sawn or rough hewn wood, and those can have a beautiful look, but they're usually crooked or bent, they're out of alignment. You're going to have a very difficult time constructing with those materials. So you'll need special equipment, table saws, planers, jointers, things to get you a nice, perfect square edge. If you don't have those items, that obviously would be very, very expensive. Now, you can go to the big box stores and you can purchase oak that's been squared and finished on all four sides, and it's beautiful. However, that stuff's $5 a linear foot. So if you were to factor that, and mind you, most of it is not an inch thick, some of it's 3/4 of an inch thick, but to do a cost like this would be 3 times 7 times 5, which would be 21 times 5 would be $105. And that's just for the straight panels. Not to mention, with most barn doors, you're going to have a large strip here, one in the middle, one here, maybe you've got a cross member. It all adds up to a lot of cost. So I chose to go a slightly more economical route, and at the big box stores and many lumber mills, you can purchase what's called shiplap or tongue and groove paneling with tongue and groove wood. I managed to get all of this. This is tongue and groove, which is what I did my garage out of. It's very inexpensive. A 12-foot board, I believe, was about $8, maybe $9. And so it only took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I had to get 8 of those boards. So that was about $64, $70-ish, which is not bad. And I had more than enough scrap left over to do the cross members. Okay? So I was able to save a lot of money by doing that. The other nice thing about that is it comes squared on all four sides, and it's finished and ready for staining, which is great, right? So as you can see, I've already put I've cut it to length. I've got a 3-foot by 7-foot door. I'm building my door to be 3 foot wide. I'm sorry, 3 foot 3 inches wide, because I want it to be hanging over a little bit. And I'm building it about 7 foot tall, which is actually a little bit taller than my door is, but I wanted that look. So I just want to give you a heads up. As you can see here, I've cut it to length. I have not cut this panel to width. At this point, let's take a look and see what we've got. I know that it's 7 foot long, but width-wise, I'm at 41 inches and I want to be at 39, which is fine because I actually want to cut the tongue off and the groove off of the other side. Now, I have a table saw, so I'm going to use my table saw to do that once I have finished putting this piece together. So just want to give you a kind of an update on some ideas that you might consider when you go to build your barn door. Now, one other thing I want to point out is a lot of these tongue and groove, it's called knotty, K-N-O-T-T-Y, not like it's full of knots, knotty pine. Is you'll notice some of them have a design, I don't know if you can see this very well on the camera, but right here, there is kind of a groove cut in. Now, I don't actually like that, and I don't want to see it, so I'm putting that on the back side of my door. The front side of my door is just going to be a flush pine panel. So, all right, more to come. All right, now, as you'll probably notice, these panels, the tongue and groove I've got here, I think they're about 6 inches, which means really they're only about 5.5. Maybe they're 6, I haven't measured them, it doesn't matter. What does matter is, at least for the design that I've selected, I want a wider band than what these are to go across for looks. And so the widest that they had at the big box store that I went to was a 10-inch panel. I bought one 10-inch panel, I think it was $11. And supposedly this is 10 inches. Let's find out. Not even close. So these must actually be 8-inch panels because including the groove and the tongue, they're 7 1/8. So that should tell you. And I'll tell you what, just for fun here, let's find out what these 6-inch panels really are. Including tongue and groove, they're 5 5/8. So, which honestly, it's fine. I've got wider stock. I could use different material if I wanted to. I don't want to. This is a simple door, and I want it to be simple. So, a lot of the looks of your barn door are going to be how you finish it anyway, and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on that. So, on these panels, though, I don't obviously want to see the tongue. The groove, I don't mind so much, because let's say this is the top of the door. I'm going to leave the groove facing up so you won't be able to see it. And on the bottom, I'll leave the groove facing down so that you won't be able to see it, right? But I am going to use my table saw to rip the tongue off, right? If you don't have a table saw, you can probably do this with a circular saw. If you take your time and set up a nice template or a nice tool to help you keep a straight edge. But I'm going to use a table saw for that. All right, now I'd like to do the safety piece where I say, oh, the guard's been removed for video purposes, but the reality is I don't like the guard and I don't use it. So I would highly recommend, however, that you always use all safety equipment. You should use hearing protection, you should use eye protection. I rode a motorcycle for years, so I can't hear anything anyway, so I'm not worried about it. Again, I highly recommend that you do the way the manufacturers tell you that you should, just to protect yourself. So what I'm doing now is I've loosened my fence up, and I'm backing my fence off right up to the blade so I can see that I'm going to take just the tongue off, and then I'm going to tighten that down, and I'm going to go ahead and run this through. Again, you should be using something along the lines of a push block or a push guard of sorts, and just to keep all you safety fanatics out there happy, I'm going to use one. Typically I do not, but I don't feel like getting a bunch of troll messages on this video, so here we go. There we go. I don't know if you can see this, but it took the tongue clean off, left me with a nice edge. You can notice here, I don't know if you can see it in the video, there is a little bevel here. I don't mind the bevel. I'm going to leave it. I probably would have put one on anyway with a router, but luckily in this instance I don't have to, because just by taking the tongue I've left myself a nice little bevel, and because this is going to be the top or the bottom, I don't have to worry about taking the groove off. So we're going to do this 2 more times, with the exception of, on the third board, we're actually going to take off the tongue and the groove. And again, we got a perfect cut. Now for this last one, I'm going to go ahead and take the tongue off. Then I'm going to readjust my fence to take off the groove, because it's going to be in the middle. I could just have it in the middle facing down so that you don't see it, but I actually don't mind if it's a little bit smaller in the middle than it is on the top and the bottom, just for, I don't think you'll be able to see it. If you can, I think it'll look nice. The downside now I'm sitting here noticing is that if I take the groove off, I'm going to lose the bevel completely. I think I might actually, you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to go ahead and take the bevel off of both. So again, I'm going to loosen the fence, and I'm going to push the fence out just far enough. That right there looks perfect. Take off that end. See that? That's why you should be eye protected. Now I did not get the entire groove, so I'm going to have to readjust. I think when I locked my fence down, it came over a little bit on me. Let's take another look here. That's pretty close. Let's try that. I'll take that. Alright. And you know, folks, when you're building this, remember, it's a barn door. It's supposed to look a little rough. It doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, next up. So, remember what I said. I don't want to see the grooves on any part of this. It's going to be on the back side of the door. And on most barn doors, the bars that support or brace your door or at the top, middle, and bottom, or however you decide to do it is irrelevant, but they're on the door side. They're on the side that faces the person. So you'll notice I put the groove side down on my table, and I've already clamped up one side to get things nice and snug in the middle. As a weird twist of fate here, the door is exactly the same width as the table saw surface, so it's making it a little challenging because I couldn't clamp. I was actually clamping on the table instead of on the door. Not a big deal. If you do not have clamps big enough, well, here's a perfect example right here. I do not have a clamp big enough. I only have that one tight clamp. There's a lot of ways that you can do this. Number one, you'll notice I'm intentionally choosing not to glue up these joints. One of the reasons is I'm going to have everything held together by those braces anyway, but moreover, some of the things I've learned over the years is if you make your joinery too tight, as it swells and expands and contracts from the heat, if there isn't room for things to shift and move just a little bit, it can actually cause the wood to split and crack, and I don't want that. So, considering this is going to be out in the garage, which at least for this season is not going to be heated every day or cooled every day in the heat, I'm choosing not to glue up these pieces. I hope I don't come to regret that, but worst case, if I do, all I have to do is take the braces off, pull them apart, spread some glue, and put it back together. It's not a big deal. If you for whatever reason, you do not have clamps that are long enough, you have some options. You know, you could build yourself a little jig that would clamp in here, but has the handles in here so you can pull in tight. I think for my purpose, this single clamp is probably going to be enough, because I just wanted to hold together the middle section and make sure it was nice and snug before I put on my first brace. By the way, I purchased that at Harbor Freight. I think it was like $12. So I kind of wish I would have bought more now. But you can always go and buy a clamp. And honestly, if you're into woodworking and you plan on doing many more projects, you're going to need clamps like this anyway. All right, next up, we are going to begin installing our braces. Now you'll notice my brace is not quite as wide as the door. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see what you can see here. Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a lip. That's intentional because I knew that this door was actually wider. I'm going to be running it down the table saw to make it to the perfect width for me. And I want to take off the tongue and the groove on both sides. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just kind of center as best I can right in between these two beveled edges, just like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and pilot. I'm going to mark, because I want part of the design of this to be the screws that we painted black earlier. And actually on this, it's going to be bolts. I'm going to use some hex head bolts because I think they look better. And I'm going to try to do an offset pattern, right, like this. So I'm going to actually take the time to measure the width of this board, mark lines, and then I'm going to mark the center of each of these boards before I do that. That way it'll have a more uniform look. Alright, so if you remember earlier I said I wanted to save a few bucks on the expensive painted screws. Took a few minutes, piloted a few holes in this board, shot all my screws and my bolts into the board, and then hit it with some satin paint, spray paint. Took a few seconds, left it out in the sun, it dried pretty quickly. It's still probably not quite dry, but I'm going to probably go ahead and start using these now. So realizing I'm, you know, when using a socket to put these down through the board and a drill bit, I'll probably rub some of the black paint off. That's okay, I'll come back and touch it up with a paintbrush later. So. Alright, so as you can see here, we shot these painted black bolt head screws in here. Now one thing I noticed is, by my counts, I put 16 in this board and I only have 9 left, which means I only got 24. There were supposed to be 25 in the pack. So I kind of got shorted by 1. Although really, I never did a count anyway, so I didn't know how many I was going to need. And moreover, the more I'm thinking about it, I may actually switch these out for the black screws and just use the bolts in the center. So, or maybe bolts just on the corners and the top and screws in the middle. I haven't decided yet, but I'm probably going to change this design up just a little bit. All right, so here we have a almost finished product. It's obviously not finished. It's got quite a ways to go. You can see the top, middle, and the bottom. You notice there's no bolts in the bottom because because I had already piloted and drilled the hex head nuts in there, not hex head, but the the socket type, whatever, in there. Those were size 14, whereas my screws were size 12, so I'm going to have to go and buy some size 12 to come back and hit those, and then I'll take those 12s out up there at the top, up here, and place those with 14s as well. So what's left to do is to stain it and to put a handle on it, and I'm considering putting a cross section like this. Haven't decided yet. Right now I'm leaning against it because I kind of like the way this looks. So, all right, next up we're going to install this door.